Hello, thank you for joining us. We begin our report on the presidential campaign trail with less than 70 days to go until Election Day. Both candidates are campaigning in battleground states Thursday. Vice President Kamala Harris spoke to voters down in Georgia, while former President Trump traveled to Michigan. That's where he blamed Harris for supporting programs that have contributed to inflation.
Over the past 4 years, Kamala and crooked Joe Biden have presided over an economic reign of terror, committing one financial atrocity after another. As Vice President, Kamala cast the deciding votes that caused the worst inflation in American history. You're all victims of it. We all are. Everybody is a victim of it.
Vice President Kamala Harris, pronounced Kamala, also focused on the economy in her rally, describing an ambitious goal should she be elected president.
We fight for a future where we build what I call an opportunity economy, so that every American has the opportunity to own a home, to start a business, and to build wealth and intergenerational wealth.
I'm joined now by political reporter Aaron Navarro, who is following the Harris campaign in Savannah, Georgia, and campaign reporter Taurean, who's traveling with the Trump campaign in Michigan. Good to be with both of you. Aaron, I'll start with you. So what was the focus of the rally there in Savannah today?
John, it was pretty much a continuation and repeat of her DNC convention speech in Chicago last week. And the crowd was really receptive here when she talked about the issue of abortion rights and women's rights. At one point, she repeated the line that she had in the DNC last week, where she said that Trump and anti-choice Republicans are, quote, out of their minds. That got a big reaction here from the crowd. And she also talked about her economic plan, calling it an opportunity economy focused on lowering costs and making homes more affordable for first-time buyers.
And Taurean, Trump's stop in Michigan was supposed to center on the economy and manufacturing. We got a little of the sound there from his remarks. Were they a policy speech that's basically all an attack on Harris, or was there a portion where he talked about policies he might promote as president?
Well, John, the former president certainly led on the economy when he talked to this pretty small crowd. It was about a few hundred people at this manufacturing plant in Michigan. He made the case that he would be the sole candidate to bring back the golden days of booming manufacturing for small towns like here in Potterville. He also went after Kamala Harris on inflation, saying that she is the key reason why the Biden administration saw surge in prices for consumers. But that quickly took a turn as he lobbed some personal attacks at the vice president, calling her names, calling her out of her name, and then also, linking her to some other things, a part of the administration, not necessarily related to the economy. The key here is that former President Donald Trump is not necessarily moving closer to sticking to messaging like some Republicans would like him to do. He knows that his supporters like the fact that he's a bit off the cusp and can be offensive sometimes in some of his off-color remarks.
Aaron, we've, the Harris campaign experienced a high level of enthusiasm, a lot of people showing up at these events because she was new, lots was changing in the Democratic Party, but the Democratic National Convention has happened. Is there still that same level of enthusiasm? What's the mood there on the trail relative to the way it was before the DNC?
John, this was another one of those big rallies. Yes, it was a little bit of a smaller town in Savannah. Yes, a little bit of a smaller arena, I think around the 10,000 cap. But the energy was still here throughout her remarks. You would hear people chant or try to start chants, either saying USA or we're not going back. And Harris made sure to note in her speech that she still considers herself an underdog in this race, trying to convince and make sure that these Democratic voters or maybe moderate voters know that there is work to be done in the next 68 days, that they do not have this race locked up, despite some of the polls showing, her gaining momentum. So it's really an urgence of caution to the crowd here, saying that we have some momentum right now, but we still have work to do.
Taurean, Trump's focus this week will be on the blue wall battleground states in the Midwest. What's your sense of their strategy there, and is he appealing specifically to the audiences on that geographical? Is he making a specific geographical pitch?
Well, sure. I think what we saw today, actually, Donald Trump announced that under his administration, he would mandate that the government or insurance companies cover the costs for IVF treatment for families. He says that this is a pro-family policy platform that he's looking to move forward. And this is a push more to the center. This also complicates Republicans' stance on, or as the party leader now, the Republican stance on pro-life arguments, but again, making this pitch to places in blue states like a Michigan, like a Wisconsin, part of the traditional Democratic blue wall. He's looking to rebuild that winning 2026 coalition where those states were pretty crucial to his victory.
Aaron Navarro and Taurean Small, thank you both.